As I mentioned earlier, the conference today is part of a wider programme of work in Fishamble's New Play Clinic, which is an initiative to support playwrights and the dramaturgical development of new plays. And we're very grateful to the Arts Council for funding and supporting the New Play Clinic, through which the conference is made possible. And also, on a personal note, very grateful to Rachael West, the head of theatre in the Arts Council, for discussions over the past couple of months as we planned today, and suggestions and thoughts about how the day might take shape. Rachel, before she was in the Arts Council, was working as a freelance director in Ireland and largely in Germany, and has all kinds of experiences of the dramaturgical processes in Germany, which are really fascinating. But also, of course, she's the head of theatre now at the Arts Council, and we're really delighted that she's joined us today. So thanks, Rachel. Hand over to you.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Jim and Gavin. And yes, I've enjoyed our conversations over the last 2 years now. I'm nearly in the position, but I'm still saying I'm new too. And obviously we've, the similar conversations we've had with Stuart Parker Trust, who are here today, and also with Jimmy and the Lyric. And so it's an amazing position to be in, to be sort of part of conversations in lots of different directions. It's strange to be a practitioner who's not practicing at the moment, but it's wonderful to be part of and to see all the work through its various stages, and to be thinking about ways in which the Arts Council can do a better job, can do a more realistic job to the real gaps and needs that are in the sector. I will talk about the Arts Council, but I was going to just in the coffee break. So my background, I spent half my life working in Germany. It's a different system. It's got lots of money. So there's no point in kind of thinking about, let's do it that way, because we can't. But it was a very inspiring time, and I think what was probably very formative for me was, it's actually quite a long time ago, it was in the 90s, and there were no young writers in Germany at the time, and it was really recognized suddenly kind of as a gap and a dearth. And because the director is such a strong force in German theatre, they had sort of been creating the vision of the pieces, and the writers had sort of somehow been suppressed. So I happened to be in the right time at the right place to work with a young, well, it wasn't really a company, it was the Deutsches Theater. It was set up a system to exchange with the Royal Court. And I think what really impressed on me was that it was really clear from those that knew at the time, I certainly didn't, that this would be a really slow process to grow writers from scratch, to grow the skill, to grow this is my Miss Jean Brodie, but the kind of dramaturgical rigor that goes with creating and presenting a really good play. And we had amazing exchanges, first of all with mainly the Royal Court, where the English writers, Sarah Kane, Mark Ravenhill, Tim Luscombe, all these people came over usually with their agents, who were fierce figures who would sort of tear scripts and limbs apart in front of everybody. And it was quite frightening, but after the event, you kind of went, everyone sort of went back to wherever it is, wherever they write best, either with a group of people or in that dark room where it's just you and your words. And there was this sort of sense of like, really, how can you improve it? How can we move it further? What are the questions? What are the relevant questions? What are the questions that I'm searching for myself? And which are the really relevant questions that are part of why I should be presenting this work to this audience? And I suppose that's sort of, that experience has informed a lot of the work I did as a director. And to come back 2 years ago and sort of see dramaturgy and dramaturg now is now a line on the Arts Council budget forms. It wasn't when I was working here 10 years ago, and so that's a really, really interesting development. And I think at one point, you were the only dramaturg in the village, really, weren't you? Yeah.
I just haven't had training. I just copied it.
Okay, you just copied it. Well, there's a few more now, and that's great. And I think this today is an important point in that sort of evolution of Irish writing. Now, I think we've lost a great writer this week, and Tom Murphy would not have been a great fan of the dramaturg himself. But, and Irish writers have usually had, such a great tradition of just writing the plays, and you just leave every single line as it is, and that's the way it's finished. And that is a brilliant way to write, if you're brilliant. and off you go. But I think some of us need more support and engagement, and I think what's really sort of evolving now, I think, is a sort of a new level of sort of critical engagement. Someone was talking about it earlier on. I think that we need to kind of move on to that point where we understand what we're looking for, where we welcome those hard comments and those kind of that moment where you get to kind of get the person who you're actually quite frightened of in the room. And we have ITI and we have Theatre Forum, we have all these. Actually, as a sector, we're really well organised. I get to see where we look like from within the Arts Council, across all the art forms. They're quite jealous of theatre because we have we all have excellent communication skills, we know each other, we meet in places, it's a collaborative art form. And that's why I think, the essence of really finding an Irish route to dramaturgical rigour and how we can work with constantly improving the work and making sure we stay relevant to our audiences, I think is really, really critical. So that's kind of my background, or where I've come from. At the Arts Council, my other job, or my current job, I'm sure you've all read Making Great Artwork. It's a good bedtime read. It's the 10-year strategy for the Arts Council, and there's a lovely little picture somewhere in the middle. I probably won't find it fast enough, but the artist and public engagement are at the core of this strategy, and it goes through every strand of awards that we are running, that we will look at the quality of the artistic aim, this one, and that the public is not just how we're going to get bums on seats, how many tickets are we going to sell. It's actually like who is the audience? Has the applicant really thought about who they're writing for, how they're going to reach new audience, how they're going to reach a diverse audience, how they're going to reach young people. Children education is another priority of ours. And as a sector, we're quite slow in looking at theatre for young audiences, looking at understanding the differences in the different age ranges. There's been a lot of work done on that with TYA Ireland. So the Arts Council supports non-commercial professional theatre production in Ireland. It seeks to support artistic excellence both in the standard of practice and the level of ambition. The Arts Council recognises the many and varied ways that theatre artists work and aims to support artists whose work seeks to engage in a meaningful way with audiences across Ireland and beyond by supporting the creation, the development, production and dissemination of theatre. The funding structures support theatre in its many forms, from the classical and literary to experimental and contemporary, and recognise the diverse means by which theatre performance is created and produced. The Arts Council does not fund stand-up comedy, commercial theatre or amateur theatre productions, but recognises the valuable contribution they make to the art form. The Arts Council investment in theatre production is primarily through strategic funding, which is new since last September, and arts grants funding, which is currently in the workings of the Arts Council, which is why I won't be here after lunch, and project awards. I'd say most of you are familiar with the project award system. We have 4 strands, but maybe I'll say something about them shortly. So strategic funding is, we also have a set of sort of tailored schemes and individual and supports that are aimed at individual artists. So strategic funding supports the critical infrastructure required to sustain and develop theatre in Ireland. The quality of these recipients' work will be exemplary, will engage on a significant level with the people of Ireland, and will contribute significantly to the realisation of the Arts Council goals and priorities. Arts grants funding supports sort of the core of the theatre ecology in all its diversity, and supports the artistic vision of artists and arts organisations to develop a programme of excellent arts activities over a defined period of time. And projects awards, with its 4 strands, continue to offer support on a once-off basis to new and established artists and companies. Additionally, it's seen a significant amount of the touring scheme, the mixed art form festivals, and the young people, children and education's budget is also used for theatre. So I said that, but I'm going to skip through some of this because it's a little bit kind of Arts Council-y. So I think the main point probably for a lot of you would be the project awards and the 4 strands. And I've put kind of the different awards that are available onto just one sheet so you can see them. They do come, we are in the middle of changing our funding framework, so they could change. And my predecessor has said, every time you have the opportunity, just make sure you say, read the guidelines, read the guidelines, read the guidelines before you make your application. Read all the guidelines, because they do change. They change not to catch you out. They change to respond to the sector and to needs and development needs, and also to our budget, which we always get at the end of the year for the following year, and we have to use it within that year. I think there's a lot of people who have worked in the Arts Council in the past and will continue to do in the future, where we just say, well, our art doesn't work like that. You can't just apply and do it and finish it and sign off on it within 1 year. So we are moving towards a more sort of flexible approach. So arts grants funding, which is being considered at the moment, will actually be an 18-month funding program, and we will be looking towards more long-term or multi-annual awards and even bursary awards. So I was going to say the priorities over our next 3 years, we've divided the 10-year strategy into sort of 3 threes in a way. We hope to enhance the opportunities for artists by promoting more diverse partnerships. The theatre sector will be encouraged through the introduction of tailored schemes to strengthen the infrastructure by pursuing opportunities of mentorship, co-production, co-presentation and co-curation to ensure more work achieves its artistic potential and reaches more of its public throughout Ireland and beyond. We aim to enhance existing supports for individual artists at all stages of their career. We find that at the moment there is a particular age fracture on the project awards that tends to be under 35, and so we really want to, while there are various other programs that we would see, we would like to see the work kind of evenly across different ages, different genders, and obviously across all the diversity that is represented in Ireland. We want to enhance existing supports for, maybe to also include a mentorship scheme and multi-annual bursaries. Now this is something that we really hope to bring forward, but we are actually saying it now, which I'm delighted, because before we weren't in a position to. And I suppose this comes to where we are today, the dramaturgy and working with our strategically funded partners to bring people like today into a room and say, well, how could the mentorship work? How can we write the best plays that we want to write? What are the relevant plays for Ireland? What are the different art forms we want to work with within theatre? So I think the other point, I think, is if most of the companies have seen that there's been a real change in attitudes to public engagement. I think for the playwright it might be slightly different if you're writing in your garrison somewhere, but I think more and more we are seeing artists sort of encounter the questions of who your audience are, who you're writing for, and that responsibility for that, whether you can abdicate to a producer, an agent, a director, a company, but I think it's something more and more that we are certainly asking as one of our priorities in the Arts Council. So we would hope to continue to work to maybe clarify our definitions and objectives on this front a little bit more, and that we will also be working to acquire sort of engaged public engagement plans from our award recipients. And I suppose there's only mainly sort of specific areas we would sort of be working on the next while would be develop the capacity in theatre to work consistently to self-defined standards of best practice. So we have partners that we are in consultation with, but also that it's not the Arts Council necessarily driving the best practice. It's actually through our partners with ITI, for instance, recently with the conference that we had, which was so brilliantly run, that we can really sort of address the issues that are coming up through the sector. And that also we would have, we're looking to see if we can look at a best practice model for the support of artists and the development, production and dissemination of work. So we're really looking, we recognise that the company structure that was there in the Celtic Tiger years that we saw the figures earlier on, it's not as strong, it's no longer there in its prolific nature as it was. So what can support the individual artists, the project recipients and the arts grants funding people who are working on project to project or working on a sequence of projects. And we also want to pay particular attention to the development of new work and to the supports offered to playwrights. And I think that's where it's kind of, we hope to encourage design methods of apprenticeship, mentorship, and cultural leadership to support the pursuit of excellence in creative, artistic, and technical practice. I'm going to shut that bit off now. I'm not sure if, I know usually there's we spend a lot of time fielding kind of technical questions about the eligibility of awards, and you can call us if you have those things, but I think there are, the way it works out with the 4 strands and project awards, we hope certainly in strand 1 and strand 2 to be making, and it's been there since before the New Works department started in the Abbey, that there has been the possibility to apply under strand 2 for funding for a space and an idea, and to get some people into a room that you might want to work with before you actually have to have a finished script. That's more like strand 1. I'm just wondering if so strand 1 is a play development award. It supports the development of a new text for a live theatre performance. There's no requirement for a full production at the end. And strand 2 is a theatre creation. It's up to 25,000, supports the development of ideas for a new work in a collaborative and interdisciplinary context. Again, there's no requirement for a full production at the end. I mean, that's the first step for most writers when they are applying to the Arts Council as an individual writer or theatre maker. We say the first access point is probably through the Projects Awards. The Project Awards do require a certain amount of support, and to sort of clarify, Strand 1 requires that you have another body, one person working with you, a dramaturg, it could be a designer, a director, somebody who's going to help you interrogate your practice. And the reasons for this, it's not just a pure commissioning award as it used to be, it's really to sort of help you develop your practice as a writer, to have that other person there, it's develop those relationships. And I think we would probably say that most people who have ever been approached to be that person have usually entered into kind of a fruitful relationship, and I would encourage, I suppose, theatre makers to seek that person who's most fearsome with you, rather than the comfortable person. So, I mean, I could go through the individual awards, or I could just leave this here, and if you have questions, you can ask me. I think I'm getting to time, yeah, I'm not going to run through them all. Are there any specific questions that maybe you can come up to me in the break?
Yeah,
is that all right?
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Okay.